It's the 9th of February 2018, inside a nondescript office park in Macau. A man in a gray suit slides a pelican case across a glass table. Inside are 250 grams of supernotes, fake $100 bills indistinguishable from real ones under a black light. This is how North Korea pays for its survival. For 60 years, a state with almost no functioning economy has found ways to fund itself. It builds missiles. It feeds an army of 1.2 million. It keeps a ruling family in marble palaces. None of this runs on rice exports. It runs on counterfeit currency, stolen crypto, smuggled coal, and a global network of operatives who never officially exist. This is how the system works. North Korea's GDP is smaller than Vermont's. Its average citizen earns less than $2 a day. And yet it has detonated 6 nuclear devices, built a missile that can reach Chicago, and maintained the 4th largest standing army on Earth. The math does not add up unless you understand what the regime actually sells. It sells deniability. In the late 1980s, defectors and forensic examiners in South Korea and the US began noticing something strange. Counterfeit $100 bills were circulating with a quality far beyond ordinary forgers. They used the correct cotton linen paper blend. They replicated the security thread. They got the color-shifting ink right years before most criminal printers could. US Treasury officials gave the bills a name: supernotes. 3 things made them remarkable. The paper matched a US government formula. The intaglio printing press used matched US mint specifications. And the distribution network reached over 130 countries, often through diplomatic pouches that customs agents are legally forbidden to open. Diplomats are supposed to be neutral conduits. North Korea turned its embassies into supply chains. Diplomatic bags moved counterfeit cash, methamphetamine, and rhino horn alongside official cables. In 1976, 2 North Korean diplomats were expelled from Scandinavian countries for smuggling cigarettes and alcohol through diplomatic immunity. It was a small operation then. It would not stay small. By the 1990s, the regime had formalized this. A secretive unit called Office 39 was created under the Workers' Party, reporting directly to the Kim family, separate from the normal state budget. Office 39 ran hard currency operations. Restaurants in Beijing and Phnom Penh that funneled profits home. Shell companies trading in seafood and minerals. Insurance fraud schemes filed against Lloyd's of London for staged disasters. One scheme alone, a fabricated helicopter crash claim in the 2000s, brought in tens of millions of dollars before insurers grew suspicious. Why insurance fraud? Because it is slow, boring, and rarely makes headlines. North Korea has learned that the best crimes are the ones nobody bothers to investigate. Drugs were the next frontier. Through the 1990s and 2000s, North Korean state-linked vessels were intercepted carrying methamphetamine and heroin bound for Japan, Taiwan, and Australia. In 2003, Australian authorities seized the freighter Pongsu off the coast of Victoria, carrying 125 kilograms of heroin worth an estimated $160 million. The ship was registered to North Korea. Crew members were eventually convicted. The state denied everything, as it always does. Coal became the quieter, larger business. United Nations sanctions banned North Korean coal exports starting in 2017. The bans did almost nothing to stop the trade. Satellite imagery analyzed by independent researchers showed North Korean coal ships performing ship-to-ship transfers in international waters, swapping coal onto Chinese vessels under cover of darkness, then switching off their transponders. Between 2017 and 2019, researchers estimated North Korea earned hundreds of millions of dollars this way, almost entirely outside the reach of any single nation's enforcement. Then came the pivot that changed everything: cyber. In 2014, a group calling itself Guardians of Peace breached Sony Pictures Entertainment. They leaked unreleased films, internal emails, and executive salaries. The FBI attributed the attack to North Korea, retaliation for a comedy depicting the assassination of Kim Jong-un. It was destructive. It was also financially a footnote. What came next was not. In February 2016, hackers infiltrated the Bangladesh bank's SWIFT terminal, the system banks use to move money internationally. They attempted to transfer $951 million out of the bank's account at the Federal Reserve in New York. A typo in one transfer request, the word Jupiter matching a sanctioned shipping company, triggered a routine compliance flag. Most of the transfers were blocked, but $81 million had already moved to accounts in the Philippines. It vanished into casinos within days, laundered through gambling chips, a method investigators call smurfing when done with cash, except this was at industrial scale through Manila's casino junkets. The group behind it would later be named Lazarus by cybersecurity researchers. The US Treasury and FBI have formally linked Lazarus to North Korea's Reconnaissance General Bureau, the country's primary intelligence agency. Lazarus did not stop at banks. In May 2017, a piece of ransomware called WannaCry spread across 150 countries in a single weekend. It encrypted files on hundreds of thousands of computers, demanding Bitcoin payments to unlock them. It crippled parts of Britain's National Health Service, forcing hospitals to cancel surgeries and divert ambulances. The US and UK governments formally attributed WannaCry to North Korean state hackers. The ransom demands were small individually, around $300 per machine, almost incidental compared to the chaos caused. Some analysts believe disruption itself was a secondary goal, a demonstration of reach. But disruption was never the main business. Theft was. And cryptocurrency made theft easier than it had ever been. Crypto exchanges, especially smaller ones, often run with security a fraction as rigorous as traditional banks. No SWIFT compliance officer flags a strange transfer. No central bank can claw back stolen coins once they move. For a state that needs hard currency and faces near total exclusion from the formal banking system, crypto is close to perfect. Blockchain analysis firm Chainalysis has tracked North Korean-linked hacking groups stealing more than $3 billion in cryptocurrency between 2017 and 2023. In 2022 alone, hackers linked to North Korea stole roughly $1.7 billion in crypto assets, more than the regime's entire annual export revenue from legitimate goods. One single attack against the Ronin network bridge tied to the game Axie Infinity netted over $600 million in March 2022. The hackers used fake job offers on LinkedIn, sending malware-laced PDFs disguised as recruitment packages to engineers at the company. One engineer opened the file. That was the entire breach. This points to something the regime perfected long before crypto existed: human infiltration, disguise, patience, and exploiting trust. Perhaps the most audacious version of this is the IT worker scheme. Thousands of North Korean nationals, trained in coding and English, have been placed by state handlers into remote freelance jobs at Western companies using stolen or fabricated identities. They apply through ordinary freelance platforms. They pass interviews. They get hired as software developers, sometimes earning six-figure salaries that flow back almost entirely to Pyongyang, with workers keeping only a fraction. In 2024, the U.S. Department of Justice indicted multiple individuals, including an American facilitator, for running laptop farms, literally hosting company laptops in U.S. homes so North Korean workers abroad could remotely access them and appear to be logging in domestically. One scheme generated more than $6.8 million over several years for the regime. Some of these workers, prosecutors found, were unknowingly hired by Fortune 500 companies. How does a country with almost no internet access produce hackers capable of this? The answer is selection and isolation. Pyongyang University of Automation, sometimes called North Korea's hacker factory, recruits the country's top math and science students starting in childhood. They are tested rigorously, isolated from the broader population, and trained for years in programming, cryptography, and foreign languages, often without ever touching the open internet themselves. Some graduates are sent abroad to North Korean-linked outposts in China, Russia, Malaysia, and elsewhere, places where actual internet access is possible without detection, traced directly to Pyongyang. There they operate undercover, sometimes posing as trade representatives or students, running hacking operations as a day job with assigned quotas, not unlike a sales target at any other company. Defectors describe a point system. Hacking units are required to generate a set amount of foreign currency annually for the state. Falling short carries consequences for the individual and their family back home. Success carries privilege, better housing, more food, occasionally permission to travel. It is coercive labor wearing the costume of elite opportunity. Three institutions sit at the center of all of this. The Reconnaissance General Bureau runs the offensive cyber units, including Lazarus and its subgroups. The Ministry of State Security handles domestic surveillance and oversees operative security. And Office 39, the oldest of the three, still manages the older analog businesses, shell companies, smuggling networks, insurance schemes. Together they form something closer to a state-run criminal conglomerate than a traditional spy agency, one with a single shareholder and a single mandate: keep the regime solvent and the missiles funded. It is worth asking how much of this is actually about money, and how much is about something else entirely. Every hacked bank, every stolen cryptocurrency wallet, every counterfeit bill slipped into circulation chips away, in a small way, at the idea that the international financial system is secure. North Korea cannot challenge the United States military. It can challenge the quiet assumption that money, once digital, is safe. Sanctions were designed to choke this off. The United Nations Security Council has passed resolution after resolution since 2006, banning coal exports, restricting oil imports, freezing assets, blacklisting front companies. China and Russia, the regime's two largest trading partners, have enforced these sanctions unevenly, at best. Independent UN panel of experts reports have repeatedly documented Chinese ports facilitating ship-to-ship transfers in plain sight of satellite cameras. Russia, since 2022, has deepened cooperation further, reportedly importing North Korean munitions for use in Ukraine in exchange for fuel, food, and technology transfers, a relationship that gives Pyongyang a fresh economic lifeline outside the dollar system entirely. Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control keeps adding names: front companies in Hong Kong, trading firms in Dandong, individual operatives with aliases scattered across freelance coding platforms. Each name added rarely changes anything within weeks. New shells form faster than old ones are shut down. There is a deeper irony underneath the financial mechanics. The same young coders selected for their brilliance, the ones tested and isolated from childhood to become the regime's most valuable export, are themselves products of total state control. Their skill exists because the state nurtured it. Their loyalty exists because the state ensured they had no alternative. A system this efficient at producing hackers is, by definition, equally efficient at producing obedience. By 2023, estimates from South Korea's National Intelligence Service suggested cryptocurrency theft alone funded a significant portion of North Korea's weapons program for that year, more than its combined legitimate exports of textiles, seafood, and minerals. The missiles tested over the Sea of Japan, the ones that send Tokyo and Seoul into momentary alert, are increasingly paid for not with coal dug from North Korean mountains, but with code typed by North Korean engineers sitting in borrowed offices in Shenyang or Vladivostok, stealing from a gaming company's blockchain bridge 8,000 miles away. This raises an uncomfortable question for everyone outside North Korea's borders. Every company that hires a remote freelancer without verifying identity, every exchange that lists a token without rigorous security audits, every HR department that approves a laptop shipment to an unfamiliar address, each becomes, often without knowing it, a small thread in this funding chain. The infiltration does not require North Korean soldiers crossing a border. It requires only an ordinary hiring manager clicking accept on a resume that looks completely normal in every visible way. Western governments have responded with sanctions, indictments, and public attribution reports. None of these tools has meaningfully slowed the pace of theft. The 2024 indictments named individuals who, in most cases, will never be extradited, never stand trial, never serve a single day in custody. They remain in North Korea or allied territory, protected by the same state that profits from their work. In late 2024, blockchain investigators identified a new wave of suspected North Korean wallet addresses moving funds through a previously unseen laundering pattern. Smaller transactions, more intermediary hops, deliberately engineered to avoid the detection thresholds that caught earlier schemes. The pattern is still being mapped. The destination of the funds, as of this recording, has not been confirmed. Somewhere right now, in an office in a city most people couldn't find on a map, a young man who was tested for this role as a child is finishing his shift. He has a quota to meet. Tomorrow, he will try again.